In this video, we are going to practice evaluating functions. Let's start with number one. So number one, if you see, we have a function f of x is equal to 0.5x plus 3. And we need to find f of 2. What I like to do in this case, I like to put my work underneath what I've written down. So I always start by writing whatever function I'm dealing with. And then underneath f of x, I write down f of 2. And what I'm going to do is anywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 2. So I'm going to bring down my equal sign, I bring down my 0.5, and again, just like I said, I'm going to change my x to a 2. And remember, 0.5x, if you have an x next to a number, that means those two numbers are multiplying. It implies that it is saying 0.5 times x. So that becomes 0.5 times 2. Bring down my plus and bring down my 3. And you could put this in your calculator and get an answer immediately. And I would suggest doing that if you have a calculator. Otherwise, we're going to follow the order of operations. And we're going to do multiplication first. And 0.5 times 2 is 1. And of course, 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. And that is my final answer. Let's move on to number 2. Again, I'm going to start by writing down my function. In this case, our function is f of x equals 8x minus 11. And I'm trying to find f of 3/4, which again I put directly below where I had the f of x. Just like in the previous example, I'm going to rewrite the expression to the right of the equal sign, but everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with, in this case, 3/4. Now, multiplying fractions, you can put that in your calculator. You could put it as 8 times 3 divided by 4 in your calculator. Another way you can do it if you don't have a calculator is just to remember 8 is the same as a fraction is the same as 8 over 1. And I just multiply that times 3 over 4. And remember, the rule is when we multiply two fractions, you multiply the two denominators, and then you multiply the two numerators. That will be your new numerator, and then you multiply the two denominators. That will be your new denominator. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 3, and I get 24. I'm going to do 1 times 4, and I get 4. Now here I should simplify, and 24 is divisible evenly by 4. 24 divided by 4 is just 6. So this is going to be 6 minus 11, which is equal to -5. And again, you probably could just put all of this in your calculator at the very beginning. All right, here we have some slightly different types of problems, but let's read them and try to figure out how to answer them. So for f of x equals x squared plus 6x minus 20, find f of -4. And then decide, is the point -4 comma -20 on the graph of f of x? Let's start by doing the first part only. All right, so for number 3, we're going to write f of x is equal to x squared plus 6x minus 20. And again, I'm going to write underneath it f of -4 is equal to, and here everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with -4. One thing I do when I'm plugging in a negative number is I'll often use parentheses when I plug it into my equation. And again, just notice everywhere I had an x, I replaced it with -4. Again, here, you could put the right-hand side into your calculator to get your answer immediately. Otherwise, we could do your order of operations. So we do exponents first in this case. Remember, parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. We'll do exponents first. Negative 4 squared is negative 4 times negative 4, which is positive 16. Next, I do multiplication. And 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. So I actually change that to a minus 24, minus 20. And then I can just do 16 minus 24 minus 20. And I'll just do that from left to right. And 16 minus 24 is negative 8, minus 20 is negative 28. And so that is my final answer. Let's go back to the next question that they asked us here, which is the point negative 4, negative 20 on the graph of f of x? What that's really asking is when I plug in the x value, negative 4, is my value of f of x equal to negative 20? Right? That first number, negative 4, that's our x value. The second number in this ordered pair is f of x. What I'm really asking is f of negative 4 equal to negative 20? That's how I would interpret this question. And as we see here, no, f of negative 4 is not equal to negative 20 because f of negative 4 is equal to negative 28. So the answer is the point, maybe I'll do it below it where I have a little bit of space. The point negative 4, negative 20 is not on the graph of f of x. And remember, for a point to be on the graph of a function, that means when I plug in the x value, my y value, that y value has to be the output of that function. And negative 20 is not the output of the function. When my input is negative 4, when my input is negative 4, my output is negative 28, a different number. All right, let's do the same thing here. And here we have f of x is equal to x plus 6 divided by 3x minus 2. And I think I have a small typo here. This should be, let's find f of 2. So again, just like everywhere else, every other example we've done so far, I'm going to find f of 2, and I'm going to basically replace every x that I see with 2. And again, notice everywhere I have an x, I replace it with 2. Very simple. All right, I'm going to, in this case, we'll keep 2 plus 6 on the top, and I'm going to do multiplication first on the bottom. And one thing to keep in mind is, to a certain extent, even though there are no parentheses, we should consider, if you have a fraction, you always want to get the top of the fraction, you want to do the top of the fraction separately from the bottom of the fraction. And once you have them both down to one number, then you divide. So in fact, let's actually do the top separately. 2 plus 6, that's equal to 8, right? Now let's do the bottom. And I'm going to do this in one step. First, I'm going to do multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6. And then I subtract 2, and that's going to be 4. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that is my answer. Now in this case, notice when my input is 2, my output is 2. And so is the point 2, 2 on the graph of f of x? The answer is yes, right? The graph of f of x are all the points where the input is the x value and the output is the y value. All right, so we can say the point 2, 2 is on the graph of f of x. All right. And before we keep moving, I would like to just show you one more thing. Another way we can answer some of these last problems, whether or not the point is on the graph of f of x. So let me go ahead and let's go to Desmos. And we'll go to the graphing calculator. And we're going to enter in x squared. We're going to enter in x squared plus 6x minus 20, which was f of x in number 3. So there's my graph. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can kind of see it. That's what that graph looks like. Now our question is, we wanted to figure out is negative 420 on the graph of f of x. Where is negative 420? I'm going to hit enter. Maybe let's label that. Where is negative 4? I feel like it's not showing up. Well, it would be nice if that, oh, I'm sorry, it was supposed to be negative 4, negative 20. That's why it's not showing up. I entered it incorrectly. There is our point. And as you can see, that point is not on the graph. However, if I put, remember, when my input is negative 4, we found that the output should actually be negative 28. And I just would like to show you that indeed, the point negative 4, negative 28 is on the graph, right? And so this graph represents all the points where when I plug in the x value, my input, my output is the y value. Okay? And we can do the same thing for the next graph. I'm going to close these out. And let's do the same thing for number 4. X plus 6 divided by 3x minus 2. All right, an interesting graph. And we wanted to check the point 2, 2. And again, notice this point is on the graph. Hopefully that was helpful, and we will see you in the next video.